Good evening, everybody. We are live again, streaming. We're having fun with Limitless. So, what is Limitless? If you're on this platform for the first time, I just want to say welcome, 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 welcome. The idea of Limitless is limitless. I like the name, I like the concept of Limitless. It's a live stream, podcast, whatever you want to call it. And it's something that I really just do from the bottom of my heart because I enjoy it simply because it helps me and it helps any and everybody that wants to become a better version of themselves. How can we as humans upgrade ourselves consistently? So every week, this time, I live stream on the platform that you are watching this on at the moment. This is where I live stream. This is where it happens every Monday, this time. So, whichever country you're in, take a look at your watch, note the time, and realize next Monday we'll be live right here at the same time. So, Limitless is a podcast, a live stream, again, whatever name you want to give it, just to allow me and give me a platform to share some of the things that I've learned through the years. My name is Tion. I'm the owner or part owner of Action Factory. I've been doing this for many years that I've been involved in the personal development industry. And it's my passion, it's my heart. I love sharing, I love helping people become better versions of them. So if you are on here, firstly, thank you very much. You are paying me an honor to be on this platform. You are paying with your time because you're spending it on this platform. And I really want you to know that I appreciate the fact that you are here. So already I got someone to say, hello, Wim. Evening, Werner. I see your comment. Thank you kindly. Um, if you are on here, please be kind enough and just give me a hello. Just type it into the comment, whichever platform you're using. I really do enjoy people on here. I enjoy the comments. It makes me know how many people are watching it and how many people are gaining and benefiting from it. So let's get into tonight's topic. What are we talking about? So tonight we're going to talk about a topic that I do talk about a lot, which is one of humanity's biggest lies, and the lie is the lie all around failure. We have been conditioned to think about failure in a certain way, and tonight I'm going to flip the script a little bit. I really, really want everybody to try and, well, not to try, to really think about failure in a different light. I see someone else, Rulene, has also said hello. Hello, Rulene. So, what is the concept about failure? And why is flipping the switch about failure such a critical topic? So, I'm going to start off with the statement that failure is not the opposite of success. A lot of people believe that you either succeed or you fail, and the one is the opposite of the other. I really do believe that is a completely, total misconception. Failure is not the opposite of success. In fact, failure is the raw materials required to build success. So when we journey through life, there are things that we obviously want to do. We've all got dreams, we've got aspirations, we've got goals, we've got things we want to achieve in this life. So we behave in certain ways, we do certain things. And very often when we do things, we don't necessarily get the result we were hoping for. And we call that result failure, or we call it a setback. And we look at it through negative eyes. We look at it as if it's something we should be shy about or try to avoid. But I really am going to try and unpack it tonight. I'm going to give you my spin on it, and I'm going to flip your relationship with failure. At the end of tonight's session, you will be able to look at setbacks as not evidence of your limitations, but your setbacks are proof of your potential. So, to put that into context, people, if you look at around the world at people that achieve are not people that has failed the least. If you talk to people that's successful and you talk to people that have not achieved their goals, there's no way you can put people that are successful into a category and say, but they failed less than this other group of people. I want to make a statement around it, and I want you to hear the statement because this is the way I look at it. Successful people are not the ones that's failed the least. They are the ones that has failed the best. What does that mean? To be able to fail well doesn't mean you're going to fail hard. It means you're going to learn to turn that failure into a strategic advantage. You've got to take from it what it teaches you and utilize that. So tonight we're going to look at a strategy. I'm going to teach you guys a little bit of a strategy tonight. If you are a coach and you want to use it on your clients, it's a really good strategy to use. If you've been through some experience in your life and it's still kind of lingering in your back of the head, it's creating a little bit of resistance or removing your motivation to start something new or to move forward, then you're in the right place tonight because we're going to not just flip that switch. I'm going to give you a strategy on how to flip the switch, how to take whatever setbacks you've had and use those as setups for future achievements. That's what it's about. So the challenge we really have is we kind of get conditioned and we get taught about failure. And there's a lot of competition in this world, but the way that failure is brought across to us very often puts the average person in a situation where we go out of our way to try and avoid any kind of a failure. And the reason is because we feel ashamed by it. So if we have had failures because of the fact that we're ashamed about it, we don't talk about it, we try and hide it. And it's like we've done something wrong. We now bad people or sinners or whatever. But the moment we realize that if you look at people that have achieved, what we notice, and especially on social media, is success has been sanitized. It's been cleaned of the failure journey towards the success. We only see the highlights. We only see the final outcomes. We don't see the behind the scenes struggles. We don't see all the setbacks. We don't see the hurt and the pain and the tears and everything else. So it creates this culture of magic achievement that there's a potential of succeeding in this life without any setbacks, which I don't know if that's completely true. I think that's an absolute falsehood. But it installs in us some kind of a fear of failure. Now, the one thing we need to realize, and this is a base statement you need to really grasp. The only thing that is going to guarantee absolute failure, that's going to be 100% guarantee of failure, is the fear of failure. Because the fear of failure prevents us from attempting. The fear of failure removes hope, removes courage, and it disarms us completely. The fear of failure is more dangerous to us as humans than failure itself because the fear of failure stops us from trying, where failure teaches us how to succeed. So there's failure and success are not two opposites. Failure is a required learning process for us to get to a point of success. I hope that makes sense to all of you guys. So if you look at any success story, if you look at, and you talk to people that's been highly successful and people that's been mediocre in success, it doesn't really matter. Anybody that's been successful, if you really go and have an honest conversation with them, one of the things they will tell you is it's built on failures. Their success has a solid foundation, and that solid foundation means they've bumped their toes, they've bumped their heads. The bigger the success, very often, the bigger the failures that preceded it. So we need to grasp that failure isn't the opposite of success, and neither is it a detour from success. Failure is the highway that's going to take you there. It is the learning curve that is going to create it for you. The moment you stop fearing failure and you start leveraging it, you start using it, that's the moment you become limitless. That's the moment you become unstoppable. That's the moment you become king of the castle. It's the moment you stop fearing failure, but you start leveraging it. So there's a difference. We don't avoid failure. We don't avoid failure. We don't run into failure either, but we learn to leverage it when it happens. Because while others are trying to avoid it, you've got to realize this. Your competition, if you're in business, if you're an entrepreneur, your competition, your opposition, they're trying to avoid failure. But the very experience that you are going through whilst you're applying courage, doing what you need to do, bumping your toes, getting setbacks, that's what's making you stronger. So your journey, including your failures, that's the little treasures that you are collecting. That's the paving bricks that you are picking up to pave your highway to your successes. So what we want to do tonight is we need to start really, really redefining things. So the old way of looking at things is failure means I'm not achieving my goal. Well, what if we reframe it a little bit and we say that failure is actually just really good lessons and feedback in a good disguise? That's all it is. See, failure isn't what happens when you don't get what you want. It's what happens when you get exactly what you need to grow so that you can develop into what you are meant to become. Do I need to repeat that for some of you? Let's do that. Failure isn't what happens when you don't get what you want. It's what happens when you get exactly what you need to grow into the person, the limitless, amazing you who you are meant to become so that you can succeed according to your true definition of success. So failure is not about not achieving your goals. Failure is really wrapped in a cloak, but all it is brilliant lessons and really good feedback in this disguise cloak. It's not evidence that you are not good enough. Failure is evidence that you are pushing your boundaries, that you are pushing your limits, that you are daring to go into areas of life and activities that you've not really mastered before, but you are pushing your boundaries into these areas. The possibility of you taking a wrong step here or there is highly probable. But if you continue on this journey, you are proving to everybody, the whole world and yourself, that you are expanding your boundaries. You are becoming a better, larger, stronger, a limitless version of yourself. So failure is not something that we necessarily need to avoid. It is something that we just need to reframe and learn to leverage so that it works in our favor, in our favor, in our favor at the end of it. So, these tongue twisters. One of the reasons I believe failure has become such a huge issue in our modern society is because, well, we've become a little bit fragile. So if you talk to people that are successful, they'll talk about their failures, but there's a concept that I just want to really just touch on, and I call it anti-fragile. So instead of being fragile, we really need to learn to become anti-fragile. So what does that mean? It means we seek challenges, we look for appropriate challenges, we learn from every experience. A person that's anti-fragile or that's got anti-fragility, if you want to give it a fancy word, doesn't necessarily look at life in complete opposites of success or failure. Those two things are not as clearly defined. What is more important is the journey and the challenges, the learning experiences, and the road that we are on, that full process of achievement. It's not the final goal only of achievement, it's the process of achievement. And inside that process of achievement, there are things that are going to work brilliantly, and there are things that's going to give us an outcome that we're most certainly not looking for. And those are the ones we call failures or setbacks. But a person that's anti-fragile, that's strong, that really understands life, looks at all of that in a very similar light. Everything is learning. So the outcomes you get that's positive, that's learning. The outcomes you get that's not that positive, that's learning. So everything is a strategy. Everything has got a structure. And an anti-fragile person realizes that life is this accumulation of strategies and structures and systems that we are building, and all of these makes us stronger, makes us better, makes us respond and react better under stress, under good conditions, and on, in a variety of situations. It shifts our mindset into a mindset of there's no such thing as an obstacle. There's only growth, there's only opportunities, there's only learning. Life is this magnificent journey of ups and downs and ins and outs and everything else, but it's a journey, and we embrace the journey and we love the journey. So let's become anti-fragile. So what is interesting, and I see that really, let's just type that in. Um, Action Factory is the name of our brand, and I very often abbreviate it in AF. And yeah, interesting, anti-fragile AF. So let's become AF achievers. Why not? So what is the process or a technique we can use? If I'm a coach and I've got clients, what structure can I give them that I can coach them through? What are some of the questions I can ask them? What is the mindset I can take them through? So the best way to really get your client to reframe setbacks is to teach them how to fail. Now, the moment I said that, fail, you thought about what we talk about when we refer to setbacks and everything else. That's actually not what I'm talking about. What I'm going to teach you tonight is a very basic technique or a process which is called FAIL, but it's an acronym. And what does it stand for? It stands for find the lesson, F. The A stands for accept responsibility. The I stands for implement those changes. And the L stands for launch forward. So let's unpack that a little bit. So let's start with find the lesson. So when we have an experience, and this I want to go so far and say if it's a setback experience or a positive experience, all experience, we really need to ask the following question. And that is, what specifically happened? What specifically happened? Not why did it happen? What specifically happened? If you did something and you had an outcome that you didn't enjoy, what specifically happened? Analyze it. Look at it. Not why did it happen. Don't blame yourself. What happened? Once we know what happened, we can ask the second question. And we're just right in the beginning, and that this is the learning questions. This is the find the lesson, the learning part of it. So what happened? Number two. Now, number two is critical because there's a magic word in there. And the magic word is the word will or would. So, what will I do differently, or what would I do differently if I do it again? Not not what can I do differently. The moment in this case, the moment I go, what can I do differently? I am opening up my brain to a variety of options. So if you get stuck on this question and you cannot answer what would I do differently, which is a more definite word, what will I do differently? If you can't get an answer to that one, then you can ask, what can I do differently? Because now my brain is going to create one, two, three, four, five different alternative options in my behavior or strategy. If I can ask the question, what will I do differently? My brain immediately gives me an answer. I'm not going to go, what can I do differently? So, what can I do differently creates alternatives. What would I do differently creates a definite direction, but it also gives me immediate feedback. The third question I need to ask is, do I need another skill or knowledge that I need to develop? If the answer is yes, immediately the first strategy is, how do I get that? Where do I get it? What needs to happen for me to get that? And then the last question I need to ask, what assumptions, what assumptions proved to be incorrect? Now, that's kind of relevant. Whenever I plan a strategy, when I have a goal plan, when I do something in life, what the brain does, the brain jumps firstly to the result of the outcome. Because of that, the brain makes a lot of excited, positive, aspirational assumptions. It doesn't always do a proper risk analysis. We make positive assumptions based on the outcome. Then we plan the strategy to get there. If I've done something and I didn't get to the outcome I was looking for, and I ask myself, what assumptions proved to be incorrect at the starting point? Then I'm retraining my brain not to jump to ridiculous assumptions, but to start gathering information and to think slightly different so I make more realistic and accurate assumptions before I start. So, round two, when I'm going to do this, my assumptions are more mature, they're wiser. The next phase I want to go into in the whole concept of fail. So number one is find the lesson, and I'm still in find the lesson, but inside of that there's kind of two different phases. So one is the learning phase, and the second one is what I call the gold mining phase. So the learning is what what happened, what's the strategy, what went wrong. You can ask, what would I do differently? What skills or knowledge do I need to develop if necessary? And what assumptions to have proven to be incorrect from the moment I started. Those are the learning questions. But there's a second batch of questions, and these are called the mining questions. This is where I find the gold nuggets. So the first question I want to do, or a strategy I want to do, is I need to ask myself, is there a pattern? Is there something that I've done a couple of times in my behavior that ends up and there's a failure, or there's a setback, or there's an outcome that I don't want? Is there some kind of a habit or a pattern of repetition? That's a huge learning, because very often that pattern of repetition could be the actual reason. And all I need to do is just tweak that pattern of repetition and replace it with something else. The second gold nugget mining that I really want to do is I need to ask myself, are there any blind spots? And the only real way to get a good answer out of that question and to really find something is by telling yourself there are blind spots. There is absolutely things that I have missed that I didn't notice, that didn't come into my line of sight. What were they? What were they? And I can almost guarantee you, usually there's more than one. There's probably two or three or four. So that's a gold mining really one you want to go and mine. Third one you can ask. What are the areas of my growth journey that are probably not polished enough, that are probably not developed enough, that are sharp edges that might be too fragile when placed under pressure, they shatter too easily? What is there in my skill set that I can do, but the moment there's a little bit of pressure on me or time constraints, then I sort of, unravel and it shatters and I don't get the kind of response or the outcomes I want. So be very honest with yourself. The fourth one that you can ask yourself to extract some really good knowledge or gold nuggets from your experience is ask yourself the following question. If I had to teach someone else, what would be some of the wisdom nuggets that I will teach another person in how to do it better? So the moment we put ourselves in a different perceptual position, we talk from a different viewpoint, we look at the whole experience from a different view, and we extract different wisdom nuggets from the experience. So, what if I had to teach someone else about this experience, what would it be? So, that's the first concept in fail. It's find the lesson. It's the learning questions, extracting, find the lessons. The second letter in fail is the A, and that stands for accept responsibility, accept accountability, accept that I am the captain of the ship, and I cannot run away and play the blame game, what I call the coat of arms, and say it was him, it was that, it was her, it was the other thing, it was the country, it was the economy. That is not going to catapult me into future success. If I play the blame game, it's going to keep me stagnant, because then I'm just going to run around in circles and I'll constantly blame something else and someone else. So I need to take absolute ownership. I need to take accountability for what's happened. And some of the things that I can ask myself, or you can get your client to ask, is what role did I play in this particular outcome? Now, this is a good question to ask yourself regularly, because this is a question I ask myself when I have achievements and I have setbacks. What role did I play in this outcome? So the reason I say this is you've got to ask this both ways. If you only ask this when you have setbacks, you are actually going to create a very negative thought cycle in your brain. But if you ask the question when you have success and achievement and positive experiences, then you're training your brain to become more objective, and that question doesn't become a blame game. That question becomes a learning objective game. So we start learning in what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. What do I do well and what should I improve on? What role did I play in a brilliant outcome, and what role did I play when I didn't get the outcome I wanted? This gives me the fullness of accountability without judgment. This teaches my brain to accept that I am the main role player in my outcomes, and I take full responsibility, accountability, and full ownership for what happens. The second thing, so I can ask, what role did I play? I can also ask, what impact did my decisions and choices have in contributing to the outcome or to the result? What impact did my decisions or choices have that led to this result? That's the second type of a question I can ask, which is going to help me take accountability. So if you've got a client and they're just playing the blame game, these are the questions you want to ask them, because what they're going to do through these questions, they're going to reflect on the experience, and they're going to have to take ownership for what has happened. The third question you can ask them is, you can ask them, what is within my control that I didn't control? In other words, let's say you did something, and let's say you did a talk on a platform like this, because this is something that happened to me not too long ago, and you're hoping for 100 views and you only get three. Now you can ask a very simple question. What happened here that was in my control that I actually didn't control? In other words, what capabilities did I have that I didn't utilize? What capabilities do I have that I can utilize in future? This is how I take ownership of something. So the reason this is critical is the moment I take full responsibility for my setbacks and my failures, that's the moment I take full power over my future. Victims blame, victors learn. There's a massive difference between the two. So for me to become the victor, I need to learn. But I can only learn and become the victor if I realize I'm accountable. Because it's through that accountability, through that responsibility, that I do learn. Hope you guys got that one. Fail. F-A-I. I is next. And I says, I need to implement the changes. So, how do we implement? Again, you can ask your client or yourself, what are the specific changes that needs to be made? Identify them, list them. What are the specific changes that needs to be made? Identify them, create a system how to implement these changes. Because if I implement changes, I'm improving the probability of repeating the same outcome. Einstein said if we do the same thing over and over, we expect a different result, we are insane. It's the definition of insanity. Learning curves from setbacks means I need to identify what can change, what needs to change, what's my ability to change, and then create a system that I'm implementing these changes. Because the moment I implement these changes, that's the moment I can expect a different outcome, a different result. And the more I go through the cycle of implementing changes, guys, if you do it enough times, you're going to get to the successful outcome. But here's the cool thing about this. Every time I do an analysis and I ask myself, what changes can I implement? What do I need to create to get a different result? Do you realize that I'm now stepping into an area of life where I'm starting to develop a new skill, where I'm starting to enhance knowledge I have? I am becoming a better version of me. I am becoming wiser. I am becoming limitless. By identifying what needs to change, building a strategy on how to implement it, is actually enhancing my knowledge. So, what most people don't realize, I might be on this journey where I've had hundreds of setbacks that I'm getting frustrated, but the knowledge I'm gaining on this journey, when I go on a different journey at a later stage in life, this knowledge gets transferred because now I'm wiser, I'm more skilled, I've developed a different set of skills and acquired a higher grade in the topic of achievement. And I'm increasing the probability. So if you look at true entrepreneurs that have created multiple businesses, how do they do that? Well, they learn from each one and they've learned from each and every one of these failures, and they transfer this knowledge from one experience into the next, into the next, into the next. And this becomes the building blocks that creates this magnificent life of success after success after success. So true implementation of change means there's an adjustment of my strategy, there's a new approach, and this is going to generate completely different mindsets. This is going to generate completely different results. This is going to generate a different version of me, a wiser, more successful version of me. That's the cool part of this. So what are the, if I break the benefits down, what are they? So number one, if I look at my setbacks and I decide that I am going to learn from it and I implement these changes, what's happening is I am altering how I think. I'm altering my mindset. I'm upgrading my mind. Number two, I am upgrading what I do, how I do it. So I'm upgrading my skills. Number three, I'm installing a systems upgrade. My process mechanism of operation is being improved. And number th four, I'm changing what I'm focusing on. When I start something the first time and I have a setback, a lot of people, because they're shy and embarrassed about the failure, they try and hide it, and all they focus on is the negative connotation attached to the failure. But if I start learning from it and I apply different skills, different sets of behaviors, and I'm learning through it, I'm becoming wiser, I'm expanding my knowledge, my mindset, my skill set, and everything else. What's fascinating is I start focusing on different things. I start focusing on implementations. I start focusing on strategies. I start focusing on the positive results. I start focusing less on the fact that certain things happen, don't give me the results I'm looking for, and I don't notice the failures anymore because everything becomes feedback. That's the beauty of implementing the learning through the process. And the last letter in the word fail is launch it forward. Launch it forward. What does that mean? Well, if you're going to launch something, when's the best time to launch it? Right now. The best time to apply what you've learned, the best time to apply all the lessons from all the amazing experiences you had, call them your setbacks, call them whatever you want, is immediately start now. Start implementing. When's the best time in this world? Well, the only time available is now. The present is the gift we are given. Let's do it right now. If you really want to learn and grow out of your setbacks, applying your newfound knowledge immediately. Number two, apply courage. What is courage? Courage means there's a possibility that fear is present. But in the midst of this fear, this gray cloud of fear that makes my heart race and everything else, I still act. If you want to launch forward and you've had a setback, apply it immediately. And yes, there's a high possibility that fear is going to grab hold of you. In the midst of it, despite of that feeling, take action. And the moment you take that action, it's like that cage shatters open and you launch yourself into I want to use the term, into a reborn, better version of you. It's as simple as that. If you've had setbacks in the past, instead of allowing it to push you down, use that same energy. Because here's the concept. Let's assume you've had a failure and you feel terrible about it. It's broken you. Do you realize that that emotion that's pushing you down is energy? It takes energy to allow failure to control you. That emotional response, that's your body utilizing energy. Energy is burnt when we feel. It uses energy. So why not use the same energy that's pushing you down to raise you up? The same effort it takes to go into a pity party because of the failure can be used as fuel or motivation, catapulting you into your new success. Number four, how do we move forward? How do we catapult? How do we launch? Here's the interesting one. Be prepared to share your lessons with others. Why is this important? When we journey through life, and our journey is just about us, my successes and my failures and my experiences, it's all about me. Then the moment I am lazy, the moment I am tired, the moment I come up with some excuse to procrastinate, the only person that I'm accountable to is me. So it's very easy for my brain to come up with a justification because the only person standing between me and that action is me. If I've shared my lessons with others, oh, are you noticing I do a podcast about limitless and I talk about lessons I've learned in life? Have you ever wondered why? Because the moment I put it out into the public domain, the moment I share it with other people, without me realizing it logically, what I'm doing on a subconscious level, unconsciously, I am creating a group of accountability partners. I have shared this lesson with you, which means I have now told you what I've learned from this. And I'm setting this example. I'm sharing this lesson with you. So watch me rise. I am creating the subconscious mechanism of accountability. And it's a powerful lesson. Because the moment I start doing this, the moment I start applying this fail mechanism, and this is what most people don't always realize, the moment I start implementing it and I start catapulting into my new strategy, my new way of doing things, that comeback, that energy, that inspiration I gain from it, that transformation it creates, is way stronger and more powerful than the initial setback. That lesson I'm getting as I move forward and I realize I've overcome, I have moved forward. That feedback that's coming into my brain is unbelievably powerful. It builds immense amounts of courage and passion. And that comeback is so powerful that the initial setback, the initial failure, actually really just diminishes. It dilutes, it dissipates, it goes away. So that's the reason I love this whole concept of taking what happens and reframing it, making it a power, and use that to catapult me into a more profound, more magnificent future version of me. So I really, really hope that you guys got something out of tonight. But I wanna end off with something that we need to also really understand. And I forgot this earlier and I wanted to mention in the beginning. I didn't. So I am going to mention it now. Not all failures, not all setbacks are equal. They're not. There are some that are intelligent failures. There are some that are small. There are some that are fast. There are some that are cheap. There are some that are more expensive. I get that. I get that. I understand that. But here's the thing. Your small failures or setbacks are the easy ones to rectify and to overcome. Your big, expensive failures or setbacks takes a little bit longer to overcome. I get that. I understand that. But here's the thing we need to grasp. The shift it brings in you is also, in comparison, much greater. The upgrade you give yourself when you go through them is so powerful that even if it was a huge failure, the lessons from that are as huge. So, yes, your failures and setbacks are not created equal, but neither are your achievements, the magnificence of the journey, and the successes that are waiting for you. So I hope and I trust that each one of you guys got something out of this lesson, that you're looking at your past failures and all that you are seeing is all of them is merely a beautiful pearl string of jewels of nuggets of knowledge and learning. Because in my book, in my definition, there is no such thing as failure. There's feedback, there's lessons learned, there's adapted strategies, and there's a beautiful journey. And if we realize that and we live by that, we create the potential of being limitless. I hope you got something out of this. And if there's any comments or questions in the chat, let's look at it. Um, all right. Now, there's a couple of statements, but there's no questions. So I'm not going to linger too long on this. I have got a anniversary that I am to celebrate tonight. So I'm going to spend some time on that. Everybody be blessed, and I will see you 7 days from now, right?